Hey there, how's it going? Welcome to the second installment of Making the Mix, in which we start talking about getting the drums ready for the mix. So the drums, that's always sort of the big mystery, sort of the thing you get graded on when you're mixing something. Everybody goes, wow, those drums are great, or wow, those drums suck. And that's kind of, they don't notice anything else that's happening if the drums aren't really happening. We're going to start with the drums on this mix. I don't always start a mix with the drums, though. A lot of times I'll start with the vocals. It really kind of depends on the tune. And you sort of make these judgment calls when you start thinking about the mix, where to start. As you may remember from when we listened to this last time, we have two very different sort of drum sort of sections. We have the Samsara section, which has this sort of drum thing happening with the tom-toms, and the four on the floor with the kick. And then we have the It's Real section, which has more of this big drum. This sort of big drum sound happening where it's just lots of cymbals going, lots of toms, lots of licks and going. So you have this real tight sort of rhythmic part, which kind of repeats almost like a loop. Then this other thing that's more random and intense. So I'm thinking already right off the bat, I'm gonna think about two different approaches for these sections. I'm going to welcome that sort of a difference and make that sort of foundational for the track. So one of the things we notice a lot of tom toms on this tune. Obviously, the verses, the samsara sections are full of tom toms. Also, the It's Real sections, there's lots of licks going. So we've got three good tom toms here. We've got the snare drum. One of the things I noticed when I looked closer at the snare drum is that we got a lot of ghost notes here in these sections. A lot of these, there's a lot of extra sort of snare ghost notes that we start noticing when we solo that up. So I don't want to lose any of those. I want to make sure whatever I do with the snare drum, I don't want to lose those kind of notes. But I still want to have control over the snare. So at this point, obviously, if we're looking at this being a production where we have to lock everything in time, I would have locked this to a grid and figured out the grid and locked everything perfectly in time. But this is more of a performance. It was performed to a click track, but the click track changed between the sections. I'm not going to worry at all about trying to lock down the drums to any kind of time thing or do any fixing with that. Not going to do it. I like the natural drum part I have. So none of that today. None of that pocketing stuff. So we're going to leave it as is. So yeah, lots of tom toms. I got three tom toms, and when I sort of look at the tom tom tracks, I can see I've got certain areas where they're happening, and the rest of this stuff is not going to be happening. Oh yeah, I've got this crap mic. Hey, let's check out this crap mic real quick. I'm going to solo that up and just hear what that sounds. Yeah, it's pretty crappy. So some distortion and craziness on that mic. I'm thinking if I'm going to do that with anything, I'm not sure if I'm going to want to have it underneath the whole thing. I like the idea of maybe having the snare drum, however, trigger that, open that up with a gate. So we're going to hold on to that. We're not going to listen to that too much. I'm actually going to sort of mute that for now. We've got an overhead. We got a mono overhead. So that means we don't have a hi-hat microphone. So we're getting all of our hi-hat from the mic from this overhead. Does it bother us that the hi-hat's going to be in the middle? Doesn't bother me. Shouldn't bother you. Then I've got these rooms. And the thing about the rooms, real quick, that I wanted to notice, let's just go ahead. And I've got these panned left and right already. And I just want to see if I can perceive a stereo-ness to these things. Let's hear these real quick. And let's fill them up. They're a little bit stereo-y, but not super stereo-y. Yeah, listen on the tom toms or that. It's moving a little bit from right to left. Actually, that's not the way it looks on the camera, of course. Okay, so I'm not going to be getting stereo information so much from those or anything I can really rely on. So pretty much the way that the tom toms are going to be panned are going to define them. I don't have them in the overhead, so that's how they'll be defined. All right, so I've got that pretty much figured out. So the things that I know I kind of want for my drums, I haven't even started with the EQ yet, but let's just sort of figure out some things we know we want. I know already that I want a drum compressor for the kick and snare, just to sort of get a little bit more tone out of those instruments and a little bit more oomph out of those. And then I've got a drum reverb, and I made these last time, I think, in the last session, so I showed you how to do that. I've got a drum compressor. I made a mono bus for it, and that mono bus has been named drum compressor. Right now I've got the kick and snare feeding it. And they're both feeding it at 0. So I've got 1176 here. Let's see what that looks like here. And I usually have that on full fast attack, full fast release, and I'm going to just sort of slop some of that in there a little bit later. Then for my drum reverb, I have just a basic sort of true verb up. I don't know quite how this is going to sound yet, but we're going to check it out here in a minute. And it's ready to go. I've also got my sends ready, but I'm not feeding anything into the sends yet. That the tom-toms, if they're going to go into this reverb, I'm going to put them on the FMP setting. So that means that their panning will go to that panning in the reverb. I'll do that to each one of these. So FMP this. So as you can see, this has changed here. And I'm going to do that with the last. Oh, stop it. Hey, quit it. And ask for that. All right. And I'll do that with this one. So now when I do start bringing these up, those are going to happen. And I'm going to go ahead and get the crap mic. And that'll be in the center. If I do use that, it'll probably be on the snare. So let's put that in the middle. I'll just have that ready to go. I don't have reverbs on the overhead or the room mics. I'm not going to want to. I don't know. I really don't want to put overheads and room mics into reverbs. It makes the drums get super washy. So I don't want to do that. All right. So I'm already up to a good start with some things that I know I want to do. Also, though, is I think I'm going to want to have compressors on a parallel compressor for the tom-toms. So I'm going to make one of those real quick and show you how I did that. I'm going to make a new track, make a new stereo. I'm going to make this one stereo because they're going to be in a stereo pan field. Aux input. All right, let's make it nice and blue with the other guys. Blue, blue, blue. And we'll call this tom, com. So you can see I'm doing here tom-com. All right. I want to include that into my drum bus, my drum group. Sorry. So let's do that real quick. Tom-com. Put that in there too. So now it's part of my drum group. So I got the tom-toms feeding. Actually, I got a tom-tom compressor here. Let me go ahead and put a compressor on. I'm going to put another one of these 76 deals on it. I'm also going to do these. Like I said, I like fast attack, fast release, maybe a little 8. We'll sort of set the input here in a minute. And then the tom-toms. Let's make sure the tom-toms are all going to it. So we're going to our bus. Oh yeah, I have to make sure our bus is going out to the drum bus. That's very important. Let's make that input a new bus, 4142. Let's rename it tom-com, which we did. And let me find the tom-com over here. Bus tom-com down here. Boop. And we'll do that on all 3 of these. All right. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and put all of these again. I'm going to option click them on 0. So they're all going to send to it. And I'm also going to set them all on FMP so that wherever they are in the pan scheme is cool. It's going to happen. Let's check all of these. Okay, great. Cool. All right. So now I should be able to get those over there. Let's see what's happening with these compressing things here, shall we? Let's see if we like this. I got kick and snare and I haven't done any EQing yet. We still haven't done anything like that yet. We're just messing some compressors, getting some compressors set. Let's see if we like this or not. Oh, sorry. Let's get back to the top. And I'm going to also set these all pre-fader so that we can solo the drum comp and not have a problem with that. So let's do that. Okay, now let me solo up this. First the solo up the drum. This is the kick and just the kick and the snare. Oh, I'm not working on the right one there. So you see what's happening there? It's kind of getting a little, getting a bit more nuttiness off of that. We're getting a lot of, but what's happening is that's the kick and snare one. We're getting a lot of tom-tom in the kick and snare one. So you know what that means? I might want to take this kick and snare, and I'm gonna maybe go ahead and do a duplicate and a gate job on those guys, and feed those to my drum compressor. So I don't get those tom-toms in that one, but I do want them in this one. So let's look at this compressor. This is the tom compressor, the parallel compressor for the toms. See if that's really getting a lot of ring on those tom-toms, and they're really ringing out. But I bet you, and you can hear that it's picking up. Now, what's kind of cool about that is that it's getting a lot of tone from the tom, but it's also getting a lot of rings. The toms are ringing a bit. If I can control those toms also, this might really kind of sound cool and punchy. But the problem that I have here with both of these these parallel compressor things, the problem I have here is that I'm getting too much of the other drums into those compressors. I'm getting too much tom-tom into the kick snare compressor, and I'm getting too much kick snare into the tom-tom compressor. So what do I need to do? This is kind of the part of the deal where I recommend doing this all well in advance. I don't recommend doing this on the session either. I mean, do a lot of your drum prep at home, like I'm doing here. Before you go in there, and again, you want to make it this so that you can have fun mixing. And this is a lot of the stuff that we're about to do is not as much fun. So let's get into this a little bit. All right, let me look at my tracks. I'm going to take these guys out of the picture. First of all, let's look at the kick snare situation. So if I decide that I want to do to isolate the kick and snare and have them be pretty well isolated, then the way I'm going to do this is I'll use a thing called strip silence. So let's start with the kick drum. Let me highlight that up, and I'm going to come up here and to my edit area to strip silence, which is Command U. And what this will do is allow you to sort of to isolate things and basically get rid of everything else around it. In this case, you got a threshold here, so you can set the threshold properly. The length of the pad, you got the start pad. You can put a little bit of extra time at the beginning of them, and you can adjust the ends of them. And you have duration, also minimum duration. So you want to do this, sort of figure out how long you want each of these to be, and that looks about right. Let me get my start pad just a little tighter. And let's look at these. Oh, that looks pretty good. Obviously that's going to be that. So yeah, this section, they're all real 4 on the floor. Let's just zip up to the other section, see what that looks like over here. No, we got to sort of keep that highlight. Let's look closer here. And we might want to do a little, get the threshold up a little higher so that we catch these others. The snare drums don't get caught in there. All right, for the most part, that gets us there. Maybe get this threshold a little higher. Yeah. That gets rid of these extra sort of little hits, the snare hits. So that should get our kick drums pretty good. The only drag about this, of course, is it means we're going to have to crossfade. We're going to have to fade out, put fades on each of the ends of these, and that is a little bit time consuming. But if we're going to do this, it's worth doing. We don't want to have, well, we'll see how this sounds. Let's go ahead and strip it. And let's solo it. We could probably have those a little shorter, actually. Let's shorten those at the ends of these pads. They don't need to be quite that long. Let's make them shorter. All right, and because we're getting a lot of cymbals in those, especially in that section. So let's get that a little shorter. And again, strip it. And let's solo it. The ends of these sort of clip off a little bit. So you're going to have to go through and then do each of these individually, and you're gonna have to go. This is where it gets time consuming, and make sure that these all get faded out. So that way, They're all smooth. So then, of course, you need to do that with the snare. Now, the problem is, though, is that we don't necessarily want to do that to this track, per se. Maybe we'd be better off by making some duplicate tracks. So let's do that, actually. Let's get rid of this, and let's get our kick and snare. And here's what I did, by the way. I already did this. So here's my new the duplicates that I made. I made duplicates of those tracks, and I went through and I did this already. So now I've got actually really nice, clean kick and snare on these tracks. And let's just solo that real quick. Now, the thing about this is that I went ahead and kept those hi-hats in there. The snare drum is picking up that hi-hat, and I kind of like that for now. If I don't like that later, I'll shorten all these snare drums. But right now, I was kind of digging that, the way that, and I think I like that the way that's going to hit the compressor too. So I've got that done. Those are clean. I'm now going to send those to the compressor instead of the other kick and snare. So let's do that. I'm going to go over here. And let's set this up. I'm going to get rid of these because now I don't need those anymore. They're not being sent over there. But my new ones are, and they're also going to the reverb. And let's see, they're going over there. Now the problem is though, I don't think I want these tracks to go into my drum mix. I don't think I want that, actually. So, and these guys are pre-fader. So let's make them pre-fader. And what I can now do is I can now just mute these guys. They're going to come out the pre-fader, but they're not going to go to the drum mix. I don't want these guys going to the drum mix and these guys going to the drum mix. I want my parallel compressing guys to go over to not be in there. So I've taken them out of the mix. They're pre-fader, and they're now being sent over to my drum compressor. Let's see what this sounds like now. So let me solo this guy up. Okay, I'm liking that much better. I can work with that. That's getting me the punchiness that I want from that. Now I'll bring that in, plus let's bring all the other guys back in real quick. With the overhead. Let me take it out. So you see what that's doing for the kick and the snare. It's really adding some more extra body to the kick and snare. I take it out. I add it. Both kick and snare all of a sudden have more power to them. Okay, let's see if I'm going to get that with. Let's not do all this with soloing. Let's get back to a regular thing here. Okay, let's check out the tom-toms. Now we got the same situation with the tom-toms, and I'm already pretty sure, having listened to the tom-toms, that I want to get rid of all. I need to gate the toms. So you have a choice here. With Pro Tools, you can go ahead and put a gate up. Let's just put a gate up on the rack tom for starters and see how that goes for us. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to get my gate. Where is it? There it is. All right. So the rack tom. Let's solo this. Now let's get rid of this. So obviously we would have to set this properly. We just have to get that boom. So we have to get more release, a little more hold. A little higher on the threshold. A little more release. That's pretty well controlled. So we can actually do that, and do that just to each of these, the rack, the floor. If we want to do that, just set gates just like this by finding the threshold, opening the release and the hold times a little bit. The other thing we'd also need to do is make the attack really quick so we catch the transient, because it'll also sort of blunt the transient. So we really quicken up the attack. We have a little more hold, a little more release over here. All right, cool. So far so good. What I usually do with tom toms is rather than have a gate do it, again, I take the time and I personally do this. I physically do this also with the tom toms, and basically what I do, yeah, I can do it with strip silence, but I like to control this a lot better. So let's back out a little bit. And for instance, let's get over here for the beginning of this. And let's get rid of this send real quick. So here I got these two toms, right? And what I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to go here. Let's just open these toms up. And I'll go through this process, again, off the clock, and basically clean off the toms. And I'll get this guy to ring all the way up to the next one. I'll crossfade it. I mean, just fade it out. I'll just go down the line with the toms. Do a little fade in, slight fade in. Don't lose the transient. Yeah, let's get that all the way up to the snare drum, at least. So I get, and I'll go through this, and that way I'm going to get really good controlled tom-toms. That way I can put them into compressor. I can EQ them. I'm not going to worry about them messing with the snare drums. Did I do this process already? Oh, hell yes, I did, people. I'm not going to make you watch all this crap. So I already did this. Let me open up my other playlist here. And this is what it looks like once I've done this. I've cleaned up all of the toms. And I let them ring as much as I could in any given situation. And then I put some nice, for the most part, I went ahead and fade it, made sure I put fades on all of these so that you don't get any clicks. I don't want clicks on these things. Yeah, this is time consuming. It can be a little bit of a drag, but again, once you've done this, now you've got some really good control over this thing. And also you have the overhead mic, which is going to be picking up a lot of the extra air around this stuff. So you don't have to worry, you're not clipping too much stuff. So this is what I got. I've decided I'm not going to actually gate the kick and snare. I'm going to leave them open. They're not so bad. I'm using my sort of strip silence kick and snare to feed the kick snare parallel compressor. Now these tom-toms are also going to be feeding the compressor and being out just like this. So I've eliminated a lot of ringing of the tom-toms. I've eliminated a lot of extra just stuff. So this has been cleaned up quite a bit. So let's kind of hear where we're at with everything right now. Let's actually go back to the first section here. And we'll get into the first section here. Now that floor tom does sound kind of like it chokes off right when the snare hits. I don't know if I'm gonna like that yet, but also if I haven't put these guys into a reverb, so I think once I put the toms into a reverb, that might be kind of cool. It'll also give more impact to the snare drum when it hits. So, but I don't know. That might get on my nerves after a while. We'll sort of see how that goes. Now, okay, so let's check the tom-tom compressor is going pretty good. Let's make sure that's doing what we want. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of extra hi-hat in there, but now I can push this guy's a little bit. Let's give it a little more. Yeah. Now, I'm gonna take it out. You can see there's a difference. It's really adding extra tone to it. Also it's adding a lot of volume right now, but it's good. But I think I'm gonna like that when this gets going. Everything's out of whack. Now everything's out of whack in terms of levels right now. So now that I've sort of got some of these things set up, I'm gonna go back now and I'm gonna start and build this thing from the kick drum. And let me go ahead and mute everybody up. Oh, sorry, that's soloed. Let's mute everybody. Everybody's sort of ready for action, but let's just start. And I'm going to mute the drum compressor and the tom compressor and the reverb. We're just going to start with the kick drum. All right, so we got the kick drum. Let's hear it. Okay, off to start with the kick drum. Let's get rid of this. So let's get an EQ on this thing. And I generally will I reach for the good old Pro Tools EQ. It's pretty good. Okay, so obviously what we usually start with the kick drum is we want to get a little more butt to it, we want to get a more click to it, and we want to get rid of any paperiness. So let's look at some butt. And around 100 and under 100, what we really like in our kick drum is that 80 hertz, but we also look a little bit of that the impact of the 100. Let me just go and really kick this up so we can really hear it. So I'm kind of liking pushing it up around that area. So let's bypass it. But before we get too started with this, wait a minute. Let's stop for a second, because you can see I'm getting some red stuff already with the output, because, well, I'm jacking it up 10 dB. Duh. But before we get really too far into this, though, we need to start thinking about levels, because let's look down here at our mix. And as you can see down here in the mix, we've just been doing drums, and I got red stuff already. Let's play a little bit and see what happens. Just doing kick drum. It's pretty hot. So what I need to do right off the bat, this is the first order of business. All right, I'm going to want to do clip gain with everything at this point to start my mix, which means right now what I need to do is consolidate. I got to do some consolidating. So I need to take a moment to consolidate all these tracks real quick. So let me do this. I'm going to go to a new playlist here. So let's get my drum group. I'm going to duplicate this playlist. So I lit my drum group up. I'm going to go up. I'm sorry, I'm doing this wrong. Let me go up here and go to duplicate playlist. Burp. So as you can see, I got 03s all up and down the line. You didn't see anything change over here, but now I've got a duplicate playlist. I can go back to my other playlist here to go 1, and that was what we had before. This is what we got now. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and consolidate these tracks right here. My kick and snare up on top don't need consolidation. These guys do. So let's go here. We highlight and we cover we go all the way to the top. We're going to edit, hit consolidate clip. We'll see this. All right, consolidated. Now I can make clip gain adjustments, and it'll be across the board. Unless I want them to be individual, different things. We'll get into that later. Right now I'm doing broad mixed stuff. So the first order of business, I'm starting with this kick. I'm going to open it up a little bit. I'm going to bring it down about 3 dB. I'm going to start from about there, maybe even a little bit less. Yeah, let's go about minus 5 dB. That gives me some headroom to work with. So now, all right. So here we go. Let me turn up this a little bit. There we go. All right. So here's my kick drum. I'm bypassing. I give it a good buttload of 8 dBs of this. Let's not maybe give it that much. Let's just give it a good. Let's get some love here. Okay. I'm going to not filter this. I'm not going to high pass filter this kick because I want everything low that I can get underneath that. Then I need to get a little bit of that clicky clack. I need a little bit of that sort of impact of the snare, of the kick drum. Sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and come up here, and I'm going to switch to not shelving. I'm just going to go ahead and get a bell up here. That's too high, but I'm going to get around 6. Get a nice slap to it right there. Maybe it's not so good there. So right about, I'm feeling it right around in this area. Let's back it off a little bit so it's not too crazy. That's what we got to start with. Okay, that sounds probably a little clicky for now, but I'm pretty sure once we get everybody in the mix, we're going to be glad we have that. Now let's just see if there's any kind of yucky stuff in the middle we don't like. Like that stuff. That stuff. I don't like that. Let me tighten the Q a little bit up on that a little bit too. Again, bypass. Kind of liking it. I'm going to start with that. All right, let's get back here to this section. I'm going to get the snare drum. All right, let's go back over here. And let's put an EQ on that. Let's just give a good old 7 here. So with the snare drum, I think I'm going to do a little high pass filtering on that one, just to get rid of anything super low. With a fairly steep filter, or steep slope, so I don't have any extra stuff in this. The kick I really don't need. Now, it's when it comes to impact, usually between 100 and 200. So let's start with 100 here and kick it up. Again, I think we need to come back here and we need to bring down our clip gain. Let's get our clip gain also down about -5. Okay, there we go. I'm getting a red over here. Let's bypass. Listen to the snare. Getting a little more gravitas to it. Let's pump it up a little bit. Open the Q up. Okay, then again, I usually look for the high up, sort of a high mid range for the snare drum, a frequency. As you can see, the snare drum's got lots of stuff we can play with. Lots of frequency stuff. It's a noise burst. All right, I'm kind of liking that a little bit. It's really bringing a lot of that rough stuff, though. This sounds a little better. Without it. So we're getting a little more brightness out of it. And we do want to get a little bit of that sort of, a little bit of air on that snare. All right, so let's hear this with the overhead. The overhead really does sort of also give us a lot of the tone of the snare drum as well. So I'm just kind of curious about this overhead. I want to hear this. I want to check the phase polarity on this thing real quick. So I'm going to plug in a trim. So let's listen to see if we get a phase difference. 1, 2, and Oh no, I'm starting to think I like it better out of phase. Let's listen a little more. Here's with the out of phase. Within. Actually, I'm wrong. We lose a lot of low end. Okay, we're good with that. So we won't mess with the phase on that. So let's keep that out. Okay, so we got kick, snare, overhead. Let's get over here and get an EQ on this overhead real quick. And actually this time I'm going to put an Ozone 9 in so we can have a look at this and see what's going on. Okay, here's my Ozone. All right, so here's our overhead. And let's just solo it for a second. Now you see all over here, we get all this stuff happening over here. I don't think we need that, so let's Baxend all that stuff out. Okay, let's bypass. Let me gain match this. That definitely took some low end out of the picture. Let's back that up a little bit. Okay, and also with overheads, a lot of times, let's listen to see if there's any nastiness in the middle range here. We'll put the kick and snare back in. Actually, I don't really look that high. Okay, back over here to the overhead. I don't like that stuff. So a lot of times that's what I'll do. I'll go high and I'll just sort of scope until. Yeah, that first harmonic of those tom-toms, not loving it. And then we'll just give it just maybe a little teeny bit of frosting on the top. All right, we'll start with that for the overheads. Cool. Okay, so we're off to a good start with this. Let me check the level of that overhead here. Let's get these levels of the kick, snare, and overhead kind of in a good place together now. And a little more snare maybe. Okay, so we're making some progress here. Let's get the tom-toms into the picture. There we go. Actually, the headphones are on backwards, I think. Yeah, no, that's right. Right now, I feel like the toms are a little louder than this. I want to pull the tom-toms back a little bit more. Again, I think we've got to get our levels to kind of together here. I'm going to pull everybody back about 3 dB. All right, let's just do this. Okay, so right now I'm liking this. It's starting to get there. The snare still doesn't quite have the thwack that I wanted to have, but we haven't brought back in our parallel compressors yet. So let's hear what that sounds like with our compressors here. Let's play this and okay, here there with the compressors back in. That does sound a little bit better. Okay, so I'm kind of digging that more already. So now let's go one more step here, and let's check out this crap mic and see if we can get the snare drum to speak to the crap mic and open it up so that every time the snare drum hits, the crap mic opens up. So we're going to do a sidechain event here, and let's make that happen. Okay, so let's go back over here on the crap mic. I've already got a gate on here. I've bypassed it. So what we need to do is we need to make a key for it. In this case, all right, so I've got, let me go to the snare, and let me go to a bus here for a send, and I already made one, a snare key down here. It's called snare key. It's a single mono bus that I made earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and activate that. And I'm going to go ahead and option click it so it's hitting at 0. It's going to be sending from the snare drum. So I've made a bus. The bus is coming from a send on the snare here. So let's put this over here. Now this is going to be on the crap mic. So let's open up the crap mic and let's just see what's happening here. And let's make sure this is also pre-fader send, so we can also, that's always a pretty good idea. So when we solo things, if we solo up our crap mic, we will be able to hear it. So let's do that. Let's try this. All right, so let's key it in. We got to turn on the key. Okay, we got the key set up here. All right, we're getting something here. Let's. I kind of like that. Let's mute it without it and with it. Tell you what, I'll take out the compressor real quick. There it is, you can hear much better. I kind of like it. It's a little loud. Let's go ahead and over here and let's pull it down on clip gain. I like it. It adds a little roughness to it. We don't want it to sort of last too long, so it's a pretty short thing. Okay, so we're starting to build together a nice little drum sound here. We haven't even really done a lot of EQ yet. Well, we haven't really addressed our room mics yet. Let's look at our room mics real quick. And let's go back. Let's keep it on this section. We'll check out the second section here in a minute. But let's see what this sounds like. Let's check our level down here, make sure we're not getting too ready yet. We're still hitting a bit of red over here. We haven't even got any other instruments yet. So we do need to come back here. We need to bring everybody down another notch or two. So this is kind of the hard part about doing it with clip gain, but it does work out better. So let's take everybody down 2 dB. 2 dB, 2 dB. Even these guys. And let's do this another 2 dB. do another 2 dB here. And another 2 dB here. Now let's just see what we're getting here. Now we're still kind of pushing it here. I'm going to go ahead and give us a little more headroom. Let's take everybody down another 2 dB. I know you guys think I'm crazy, but this is a better way to do this. All right, so we're taking it down another 2 dB across the board, and then we'll sort of we'll readjust from here. But this is unfortunately part of the process, is making sure we give ourselves the headroom that we need to do the stuff we need to do. So let's get everybody down a little bit. I haven't really brought the room mics up yet, so I don't know where we're at with those. So let's see where this is at real quick. All right, it's better. Let me bring my drum compressor back in. I'm going to send a little more kick drum to that compressor. Alright, it's getting better. Starting to get there. How are my levels? Still a little wonky. But again, I want to try to do this without reaching. I want to try to do this without reaching for the fader still. So that crap mic needs a little bit of, I think that's going to need a little bit of EQ. So let's get an EQ on that real quick. Yeah, it's a little gnarly. Let's do a little high pass filter on it. I'm kind of liking a little bump right around here. Just give it a little something to the snare. Okay, anyways, moving forward, let's go ahead and check out these room mics. Make sure that we're liking those. Let me go and let's get some EQs on these real quick. Again, some 7 bands. Maybe copy that over here. All right, these guys. Again, I think I'm going to want to lose some extra low-end stuff. So we're going to high-pass filter a bit. Say about this much on both sides. All right, so up the filter a little bit. Yeah, I want to up the filter here. I mean the slope. Now let's see if that works. Just having that by like that for us. Okay, I'm liking that better. It's giving some space to the situation here. Take them out. Okay, now let's see what happens when we put a little reverb on the kick snare and the tom tom. So I've got my reverb here. Let's start throwing some stuff into it. start with. Okay, we'll open it up now. Okay, here's our drum verb. Again, if I go ahead and put these all into pre-fader, I can solo the drum verb. Let's do that. Let's do that. So there's our verb. Let's just see if we can make that's a pretty dark verb. What do you think? We should have a little brighter verb. And we can probably bring a little more into that. I don't like so much kick in there. Let's take the kick. I don't like kick in the reverb so much. Let's just get that out of there. All right, let's see how that sounds, everybody. Yeah. So to me, the hi-hats, I mean, the cymbals sound a little quieter than they should. Let me bring up the overhead a little bit. And I'm thinking I might compress the overhead a little bit. Actually, let's do that. Let's see if we like a little compressor on the overhead. Let's make a compressor for that real quick. All right. Then let's use, let's see what we got here. Oh, I'm going to use my Fairchild stereo. All right. Let's see how we like this. Okay, what we got here? Oh, I'm thinking we like this. Yeah, let's try it. Let's bypass it. I kind of like what that's doing. The Fairchild's a lovely thing. Okay, those tom-toms still sort of kick out a bit for me. I'm going to back down my toms a bit. Yeah, they seemed a little bit loud. So let's get my boom booms a little down lower. And I kind of want to do this now because I haven't EQ'd them yet. All right, cool. So let's get back over here. Now we've got tom-toms to kind of EQ and mess around with. Let's see what we can do about that. Let's check out the rack tom. Again, let's do a nice ozone here. Mono. You can see that that primary's note is right there. That one. So a lot of times we'll go ahead and give a little love to that. We'll do a little low end roll off. Make sure we don't have any unnecessary low stuff. We'll get a little bit of attack to it. Bypass it. As you can see, we're getting some nice stuff happening. And let's see if there's some nasty stuff we need to get rid of in the mid-range. Usually right around here. Let's just pull a little bit of it. Definitely getting some more tone from that tom. Let's hear it in context. Okay, that's a good start. Let's get the other one now. Let's get another nice ozone up on the next tom-tom, and let's see what's going on with that. Okay, again, I'm going to do a little filter off of very low-end stuff. Flat high pass, yeah, let's do that. Let me give it a little taste on that tone. Around about 100 is like, I got that. Bypass. Yeah, we get some tone from it. Again, we'll lose a little bit of this sort of garbagey area. Get a little bit of top on it. So that's pretty good. Let me go and check this floor tom. Where is that playing? Over here. Oh, that low on that guy. Let's check him out. He's going to need his own. So let's go get him one too. Let's give him an ozone of his own. An ozone of his own. Okay, let's do that. Hey, are we having fun yet? I hope you're having fun. This is fun. Okay, so looking at this one, check this one. This one's definitely gonna. We won't bother with a filter on that one. Let's just go ahead and make this. Let's get some nice tone out of that. We'll sort of enhance that yummy area there. Open it up. Give some top on it so we hear the tap. Maybe just a little bit less of this over here. Bypass. Have it with it. Let's see how we like it in the top. That's pretty nice. I like that tone. It's got a good tone to it. We got a good drum on that. So we really don't have to do too much to it. Again, I brought a little bit of the tone out of the drum. I brought a little bit of the hit out of the top of it, and then I did a little scoop around the first harmonic of the drum, right about, somewhere in, it usually is in about the 250 to 1K range that you deal with that. All right, so I got some good stuff going here. I'm gonna close this out right here. I'm gonna bring back a part 2 to this here in a minute, and we'll discuss this a little bit more. Hopefully, this gets you guys off to a good start. But let's listen to it one more time, a bit of this track, see how we're liking where we're at right now. Yeah, I just keep feeling like I need more bottom end of the kick, but I'm also mixing on headphones right now, so I'm gonna check it out on speakers before our next time I get into this. Anyways, making the mix. We've been working on this and mostly working on the first half of this. We're gonna get to the second section here in a minute for the next one. So, all right, I'll be back with you. Thanks for listening.